On Christmas Eve, a small roadside diner glowed faintly under weak holiday lights. Snow drifted past the windows, soft and quiet, as if the night itself was holding its breath. Inside, the air smelled of coffee, fried potatoes, and sweetness that reminded people of better days. At a corner booth sat Maria, her body stiff with worry, fear, and love tangled tightly in her chest. In her coat pocket was a single $20 bill, the last of her money. Across from her sat her twin daughters, Lily and Rose, small hands folded neatly on the table. They weren't looking at the menu pictures like other children. Instead, their eyes were fixed on their mother's face, reading her worry. Rent was overdue, the power bill unpaid, and Christmas gifts were nothing more than a dream. Still, Maria had promised them one warm meal on Christmas Eve. Somewhere bright, somewhere that didn't smell like desperation. Lily leaned forward and whispered that fries would be enough. Rose nodded quickly and said she wasn't even hungry. Maria forced a smile, though the words cut deeper than hunger ever could. She unfolded the menu slowly, already knowing what she could afford. Around them, families laughed, couples shared plates, and silverware clinked against ceramic. For a moment, it almost felt normal. Then the diner door opened. The bell rang sharply, followed by the heavy sound of boots hitting tile. A group of men walked in, leather vests dusted with snow, patches stitched proudly across their backs, Hell's Angels. Conversations dipped, a few heads turned. Maria's chest tightened as she instinctively pulled the menu closer, trying to make herself smaller. Rose slid her hand into Maria's sleeve, gripping it tightly. Maria swallowed hard, reminding herself not to judge, even as fear settled in her bones. The waitress approached and asked for their order. Maria chose her words carefully. 1 plate of pancakes to share, extra water, no drinks. As the waitress turned to leave, Lily spoke up in a small, trembling voice, asking if they could please have 1 hot chocolate to share, because it was Christmas. Maria closed her eyes for half a second, did the math she already knew by heart, then nodded. 1 hot chocolate, she said softly. Behind them, the bikers settled into a long table. Their laughter was low and rough, but not cruel. One man, tall with a graying beard, watched Maria's table quietly. He noticed how she tore sugar packets in half, how she slid most of the food toward her daughters, how she pretended to eat while only sipping water. He noticed the way the twins kept glancing at her instead of their food, worried instead of excited. When the pancakes arrived, Maria thanked the waitress too many times. She broke the food into careful pieces, counting bites in her head. The hot chocolate came last, steam curling upward, and she pushed it toward the girls, insisting they drink first. As they ate, Maria's eyes drifted to the small Christmas tree in the corner, its lights flickering softly. She thought of her husband, gone 2 years now after a workplace accident that took more than his life, it took their stability too. She thought of promises she couldn't keep and prayers that felt unanswered. She didn't notice when the tall biker stood up. She only felt a shadow fall across the table. Slowly she looked up, her heart racing. The man's expression wasn't hard. It was gentle, thoughtful. He cleared his throat softly so as not to scare them. "Mind if I sit for a second?" he asked. Maria hesitated, then nodded. He listened as she spoke, really listened, without judgment or pity. When she finished, embarrassed by her honesty, he stood and walked to the counter. He spoke quietly with the waitress. Minutes later, plates began appearing on the table, real plates. Turkey, mashed potatoes, vegetables, warm rolls. Another hot chocolate, then dessert. Maria stared in disbelief as tears spilled freely down her face. "Why?" she whispered. The man sat back down, his eyes shining. "Because I was that kid once," he said. "Sitting with my mom, counting bites, hoping no one noticed." He glanced back at his table. "We look rough, but we're family men." Christmas was about remembering that. One by one, the other Hell's Angels stood and approached the table. They set down wrapped gifts, small toys, warm scarves, a stuffed bear. Lily gasped. Rose covered her mouth. Maria broke completely, sobbing as her daughters laughed and cried at the same time. The diner fell silent. Then someone clapped. Another followed. Soon, the entire room was applauding, not for the bikers, but for the moment. As the men prepared to leave, the tall biker placed a hand over his heart. "Merry Christmas," he said simply. When the door closed behind them, the diner felt warmer somehow. Maria hugged her daughters tightly, realizing that hope hadn't abandoned her after all. It had just arrived wearing leather,